starts now.
For members of the state legislature, the summer break is over, and now the clock is ticking. State lawmakers will be headed back to Sacramento on Monday with just a few weeks left to advance or kill more than 1,000 bills before the deadline. From the high cost of living to housing, artificial intelligence, that's a short list. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are bringing their priorities back here to the Capitol in Sacramento. Thanks for joining us here for Fox 40 News at 5:30. I'm Eric Harriman. Nikki's off tonight. California Capitol reporter Eitan Wallace has a preview of what's ahead as lawmakers are now entering that final stretch.
Clerk will open the roll.
Come Monday, all 80 members of the state assembly and all 40 members of the state senate will reconvene at the state capitol following their July recess. While the last few weeks have been quiet in the halls of the capitol, the next few weeks are expected to be just the opposite as lawmakers enter the final stretch of this year's legislative session. They have until the end of August to take up a huge number of bills and decide whether to advance them to Governor Gavin Newsom's desk. So just how many bills are we talking about?
Almost 1,200 measures.
McGeorge School of Law adjunct professor and longtime lobbyist Chris McKaylee plans to closely monitor which bills make it and which do not. As we enter peak summer in just a year and a half after the deadly and destructive Palisades and Eaton fires, McKaylee expects legislation on wildfire liability to receive a lot of attention.
I think that there's going to be a big battle between utilities and insurers, and ultimately who bears the cost of both preparation but also the outcome in those wildfires.
He also expects the legislature to prioritize bills on artificial intelligence and data privacy. And then there's the debate whether to extend the life of the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant on the Central Coast, the state's last active nuclear reactor that, as of now, is set to close in 2030.
Nuclear power represents about 9% of the energy production in the state. So if it were to come offline in 2030, and we don't have replacement sources of energy production, we could see blackouts across the state of California.
Meantime, Republicans are expected to continue pushing their efforts to suspend California's 63-cent per gallon gas tax.
Now's the time to act and act swiftly. Hopefully the governor and my colleagues see as I see it and drop these prices immediately.
But Governor Newsom and leaders with the Democratic supermajority have said they will not support suspending the gas tax, noting it generates revenue for key road and transportation infrastructure projects. And speaking of the governor, San Jose Democratic Assemblymember Alex Lee wants Newsom to advance legislation restricting the number of homes large corporations and Wall Street investors can buy statewide. It comes after Newsom, in his State of the State address earlier this year, said the issue would be a priority of his during his final year in the governor's office.
I think it's shameful that we allow private equity firms in Manhattan to become some of the biggest landlords here in our cities in California.
Well, it's very disappointing that the governor talked about this very issue in his State of the State and never followed up with any action, whether it be in the budget or policy.
If there are any lingering policy proposals that he has or things that he wants to get done as part of cementing his legacy, we could see some of those measures come about in August as well.
And the governor will have until September 30th to either sign or veto all of the bills that reach his desk. At the state capitol, covering local news that matters, Eitan Wallace, Fox 40 News.